Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we are taking something that usually sounds super technical, gRPC services, and we're going to break it down using something we all intuitively understand, a restaurant. To set the stage here, how do microservices actually talk to each other? Picture a hungry client application. It's sitting out there, completely isolated in the digital void, and it desperately needs fast data from a distant server. It can't just, shout across the network and hope the server figures out what it wants. It needs a way to communicate that is highly reliable, incredibly fast, and strictly structured. And well, that is exactly the problem gRPC architecture solves. Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to start with the very first thing you look at in any restaurant, the menu. In the gRPC world, this menu is your .proto file. Now, a .proto file is really just a plain text file, but don't let that simplicity fool you. It's the absolute beating heart of the ecosystem. It defines your services, your methods, and your message formats. So why does this matter so much? Because it acts as a strict, unbreakable contract between the client and the server. Both sides absolutely must adhere to this menu. Just like a real restaurant menu lists the exact dishes you can order, which for us are the RPC methods, and the exact ingredients that go into them, the messages, there's no guessing. Literally, if it's not on the menu, you can't order it. Right, so now that we have our menu completely defined and agreed upon, we actually need someone to cook the food. That brings us to the kitchen, which represents our gRPC server. This is the back-end powerhouse of our software operation. Once that strict contract is locked in, the server really does two main things. It implements a service, and it constantly listens for requests. I want you to think of the server as a highly trained team of chefs. Because they have the menu, they know exactly how to prepare the specific dishes listed. And they're just standing by their stations, listening, waiting for those orders to roll in. But wait, right now, we kind of have a physical gap in our architecture, don't we? The client is out in the dining room, and our chefs are all the way back in the kitchen. To figure out how the client physically gets their order to the kitchen, we need to look at two new components: the waiter, which is our client stub, and the phone line, which is our channel. Let's focus on that client stub first. Basically, it's an auto-generated piece of code that sits right there on the client side. Its whole job is to provide callable methods to seamlessly handle all that complex behind-the-scenes communication. It is exactly like a waiter. Think about it. When you go to a restaurant, you don't just barge into a busy kitchen and start shouting at the chefs, right? No, you give your order to the waiter. In gRPC, you just call a method on the stub. That stub acts as your waiter, taking on all the heavy lifting of the network logistics to get your request to the kitchen. So you don't have to write all that messy networking code yourself. And supporting that waiter is the channel. This is a persistent connection to a gRPC server's endpoint, specifically detailing its host and port. If you're ordering takeout instead of dining in, the channel is the literal phone line you use to call the restaurant. And what's honestly incredibly efficient about this setup is that a gRPC channel allows you to place multiple different orders over that exact same phone line connection. That saves a massive amount of time and resources. Okay, so we've met the menu, the kitchen, the waiter, and the phone line. Now, let's move forward and see how putting all these isolated pieces together makes the entire communication flow perfectly seamless. Watch how this maps abstract data packets right to a real-world restaurant transaction. Step 1, the client gives their order to the waiter, our client stub, which sends it over the phone line, our channel. Step 2, the kitchen, our gRPC server, gets that order and prepares the data dish exactly as the menu dictated. Step 3, the waiter returns the prepared response right back to the client's table. Just like that, this highly complex microservice transaction becomes crystal clear. So, what's the big takeaway here? Let's bring all these technical pieces and their real-world counterparts together to really lock in our understanding. This brilliant analogy brings the entire gRPC ecosystem together so perfectly. We have our core components mapped out. The service definition is our menu, the gRPC server is the kitchen, the client stub is the waiter, and the channel is the phone line. But, the source material actually gives us a few more fantastic analogies to round it out. Protocol buffers? They act as a special language to efficiently serialize our data for transport. Then we have metadata acting as special instructions, kind of like handing allergy notes to the kitchen, just to send extra info like auth tokens. And we even have interceptors acting as the restaurant manager, stepping in as middleware to handle overarching tasks like logging and security. It's just incredibly cohesive, right? Which leaves us with one final provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer. Think about this.
How does a strict menu contract change the way developers scale their application restaurants for the future? When your communication is this structured, this predictable, and this reliable, well, how big can you build your kitchen? I highly encourage you to take this structural understanding of gRPC and apply it to how you think about your own future software architecture. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.